have FAU's athletic director Brian White joining us today. Super excited to learn a ton about FAU. But just welcome to the show, and I appreciate you doing this.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to connecting.
Um, One of the things and Mike was telling me about some of this stuff before whenever we chatted last week, but I was just looking at your sort of history of being with the program, and I was just like, you know what, he's been through a lot of different versions of like college athletics, and you've seen a lot of different things. I think about you've sort of seen FAU and been with FAU and stuff before the Final Four run, before the move to the American Conference, and now you're leading it into this revenue share era that's kind of chaotic. What do you think about the job today compared to when you first arrived? Like, how different is it for you?
In some ways it's really different. In some ways it's the same. I love FAU. I love this community. I love this job. I love this university. I think it has incredible potential. So all the reasons I was really jacked up to, take the interview here when I still remember at Mizzou Arena when I got my first phone call from the recruiter to say, would you be open to this job? And I didn't know a lot, candidly, about Boca Raton, and I knew a little bit about Florida Atlantic, and I saw the success, and I saw it as a young, up and coming, kind of stock on the rise type place, and it's still that. We've come a long way. Yes, when we first got here, you mentioned the Final Four run. I think when we first got here, we had 74 season ticket holders for basketball, and we were just had a base that hadn't yet really hit the strides that we've hit, and I think that started early on with building a really good staff and a good team. I have a good fundraising team that's been with me since we got down here, and really engaged with the community. And we've all tried to roll our sleeves up. And there's no substitution for hard work. And we've gotten out, and we've had some great generosity in this community, and grown that base. So now I see what we believed was potential coming to fruition, and taking action here, and we see the results of a lot of hard work, but we're nowhere near our peak or our maturity, and that's the thing we talk about all the time is how exciting it is, and literally we geek ourselves up in meetings how excited we are about FAU and what I think we can become.
Talk to me about that, right? So you talked about you guys still having like a lot to do and a lot to sort of figure out, especially in this new sort of age. But when you try to, I know it's difficult to do this, but when you try to look 3 to 5 years down the road, what exactly are you trying to build with FAU at this point?
We think we can be a dominant Group of Six athletic department, a dominant American athletic department, compete for championships across the board. We want to go to a college football playoff. We want to go back to the Final Four in men's basketball and women's basketball. We want to compete for championships across the board. We don't think there's any limit to what we can accomplish. We've come a long way, but this is a Florida Atlantic University is very young. We're just established in '61, and open. We're founded in '61, opened in '64 for the first class as an upper level 2-year institution. And it was the first ever university to be established by a sitting president, Lyndon B. Johnson, and we were a World War II military base. And we didn't have football until 25 years ago. So it's, I know there's other young institutions in our league, and we're not the only one. And that's why I think the American's such an awesome league with incredible potential. But, we think we can be an absolute force in college athletics. We think it's very special what we have from not only a high school recruiting base, but we also are a great destination to recruit too. And when we recruit internationally around the country, especially at the right time of year, we bring a kid in here in February, March, we look pretty darn good. So we think, we have some special opportunities there, the local community, the wealth here. We're that up and coming stock, that up and coming team that I think that there's no limit to what we can accomplish.
Talk to me about that youth as a program, right? As you said, there's a few young programs in the conference, and every time I talk to someone around that, they bring that up but I also, and they bring it up a lot of the times to say like, hey, we're not there yet. Like we don't have some of the advantages that maybe some of these more established programs who've been around for 100 years has. What advantages does that give you though? That you could kind of share with people? Because I feel like a lot of people, like I said, use it in a way to like as a not as a crutch, but as like, hey, we're not here yet. But like they don't talk much about the advantages of being kind of a new program that's kind of building this thing.
I think the uniqueness of being a new program is you're not tied down to certain traditions, or you're not restricted in how creative and goofy you can be. I don't think we could do all the silly Seinfeld stuff we did at some institutions, or some of the creativity our marketing staff can have when they bring it to a meeting. Typically our fan base is on board with it, and it's a fun loving group, and we kind of have that culture. I think that's an advantage. But we got a whole lot of other advantages that don't relate to our age. Like, is there anything that replaces being 100-plus-year-old institution and having people come to games because their grandfather took them to games and their great grandfather took their grandfather games, and it's like a religion, and we don't have that. Just reality. But that being said, we got a lot of those people right here. We got a lot of those people from all over the country that may be a fan of a Big Ten or an SEC or an ACC school, et cetera, a historic university, but they live in paradise and they love where they live, and we're right down the street, and we got a lot of wealth, and I think the best demographic of anywhere anybody could ever ask for. And we invite those people out as part of our hometown initiative. Come to a game. Let us be your second place team. We understand we're not your alma mater, but a lot of times that group, we win their hearts over and we become their first place team. Some of our biggest donors and our biggest investors started off as, hey, I want to bring my kid to a game, try it out, see what it's like. And then they love it, and they come on board. And every year we get older. Our oldest alums with football on campus, with our stadium being only 12 years old, that went to games for 4 years while living on campus, and while they were here as a student, are not very old. They're not at your donor age yet. But that our alumni base, about 180,000 living alums, and they all stay local because nobody wants to leave this area. We're 3 miles from the Broward line, Broward, Palm Beach County. It's pretty darn nice down here. So we keep them here, and I think our future is incredibly bright.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I'm kicking myself that I was not able to get in touch with
We
you
got to get you
guys
back down
earlier.
here.
Yeah, I was like, I would love to go out there, have a good time, and make a weekend out of it.
Yes,
I will
anytime.
yes, I will certainly be back if you guys will have me. But yeah, so speaking of advantages though, because we started that sort of question off with advantages. When you look at FAU right now, like just the athletic department, just in general, what do you think the clearest advantage you guys have right now in the American Conference, sort of on your peers, I guess?
I say the people, and I know that may sound off, because there's great people at every university. So it's not to talk about anybody else's group of coaches. We got great group of coaches all across the American, but I put our group of coaches, our staff, against any in the country. I really do. I think we got some special people here. But I think that the intrinsic advantages of FAU helps us recruit those people, and helps us recruit people want to be here. And then when they're here, they can have success. Like, we've had coaches that had great success, and some of them stay, and some of them turn down great opportunities. And we've had administrative staff as well that have stayed. So I think Florida Atlantic is a special place, and it helps you recruit great people. And it all starts with people, no matter what you do. And then they're able to stay here longer. I think we've kept people longer than we probably should have, because people love living here.
Yeah, I was reading some stuff, some comments earlier today made by Memphis AD Ed Scott about some of the rev share dollars that they're talking about over the next, I think this year from basketball, and they talked about some stuff. I think a number that they were going to hit for football in 2027. Whenever you, I guess my question is, and I've asked this question just to everyone that I've talked to. Where do you see Florida Atlantic right now? How are you guys competing in the conference from a resource standpoint? Is it top tier, mid level? Where do you guys see yourselves?
We're definitely top tier. And I know that because we've seen the numbers from the other schools through
Yeah.
the anonymous survey from the conference. So we absolutely know that we're top tier. Believe that we can, and we believe we can continue to grow and be competitive in that area. The university has shown that they're fully supportive of athletics, and that's helped us a lot. But also our donors have really stepped up. And it's come from the very beginning of NIL and collective. We were always very progressive and forward thinking. And when we returned the Final Four team, we had some people really step up, and that was us explaining to people really what NIL was, because at that point it was very new from a donor's perspective. And so we had a lot of people really step up and helped us keep that roster together. And then we've continued every year to grow our base. And like I mentioned, the university stepped up and supported us as well. So we're always going to make sure we're top tier in our league, because we want our coaches to compete for championships. And I don't think you can ask coaches to compete for championships if you're not trying to do what you can on the resource side to keep them at that top tier in the league.
When you study the programs or look at some of these programs that are almost trying to separate themselves within the American, but they're trying to make themselves a lot more attractive for conference realignment in a couple of years. What do you actually think creates separation in this conference? Is it money? Is it leadership? Is it sort of having a strong donor base, facilities, or is it a mix of all of that?
I think it's a mix of all that, but I also don't know if there's as much separation as may be perceived. And I think no matter who you are, no matter where you are, you're trying to compete for championships in your league. And anything beyond that is secondary, because if you're not winning championships consistently within your league, I don't know what else, what other opportunities you're going to have. So I think, the way we see it is we want to be a dominant team in the American Athletic Conference.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the guys you guys were able to retain, some big time players, and I would assume that you guys have to pay to keep those guys at home. What do you think from a annual standpoint that you guys have to commit to football to be truly competitive in the American Conference?
I don't know that I want to put a number on it publicly,
Yeah,
candidly, but I will say I know we have to be top tier in our league, and we're
yeah,
always going to be studying, what everybody's doing, and investing what we can. What I can say is that we led the nation, I believe, according to the data and the statistics on productivity in football among Group of Six. We returned nearly 90% of our production. I think we were the only school in the country. Mike tells me, as he's run the data, we're the only school in the country that returned our starting quarterback, starting wide receiver, our best quarterback, best wide receiver, head coach, and the entire staff. Quarterback led the nation in completions. He came back. Receiver led the nation in receptions. Those two are obviously linked. They happen to be roommates and best friends. It's a heck of a story. But we got a really good culture in our team. So credit to our coaching staff on building a good culture, because sometimes that gets overlooked. It's not just about the dollars and cents, but obviously that doesn't happen without really competitive
yeah.
resources as well.
How difficult is it to retain players nowadays? I think it's almost from a lot of the coaches that I've talked to, they talk about the difficulty. It's way harder to retain good people in this conference than it is to go get people who are already in the portal. Talk to me about, like, I know you're a part of those conversations in all sports. Talk to me about the difficulty in sort of navigating this sort of new era of, like, we got to recruit our rosters and we got to recruit them hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's a compliment to our league. As silly as that sounds, it's like our league is so darn competitive that we're right off the biggest leagues. Like if you're in the SEC and Big Ten and wherever, and you're looking at, hey, who do I go and poach from? Guys are in the portal, but who do I go and poach from? Typically, I want to see that they played at a really high level, and so I think our league has a lot of respect from those leagues because they know how good our teams are. So our players are seen as being ripe for poaching. So we got to do whatever we can to create a great atmosphere and great culture, great environment, but also to generate as many resources we can to make it make sense for players to stay. everybody at the end of the day, they're going to do what's in their own best interest. I do think there's data that shows I know there's data that shows that if you're a really successful player at our level, your best chance to play in the NFL or the NBA, wherever you may want to go, is to stay where you are, where you'll know you're in guaranteed playing time. You're in a great spot. Your player development is working within the scheme and the coaching you have. So I think that there's a lot of reasons for guys to stay, and that's why we've seen certain guys stay. But then there's other guys that are in situations where they feel like they got to go, and that's understandable as well. It's a reality of our system. But I think it's the competitiveness of the American makes it to where it's really hard to keep your rosters together.
One